All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Vets and Real Estate Podcast. I am joined by former Air Force turned real estate agent James Green. James, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so James, tell us about what you did while you were in the service.
Oh man, so I joined in 2000 and I want to say 2012, and the year after I graduated high school. It was a few months actually, and I joined security forces in the Air Force. Unlike a lot of people who just kind of get thrown there,
Mm-hmm.
I actually picked it. My grandfather was a prior security police, and
Okay.
so with him already having that background, it just made the choice super easy. And honestly, the whole reason I joined the Air Force was to get out of San Antonio. And of course, you know, the Air Force has basic training here, and then Security Forces Tech School is actually here in San Antonio. And then they were nice enough to station me for my first duty station here in San Antonio for 6.5 years. So 6.5 years I was stationed at Lackland Air Force Base, which was, it was what it was. I think it taught me a lot about patience. It taught me a lot about grit. Standing outside of a gate during graduation weekend for
Mm-hmm.
12 hours, um, just kind of being stuck and not able to leave your post. It really, you really learn how to embrace the suck, man. So it definitely set me up for success in the future. But yeah, so I was there for 6.5 years. I did deploy twice out of there to Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when I got back from my second deployment, I was like, man, I got to go somewhere, anywhere but Lackland. So of course I applied for every single job, and I get a phone call from a team lead from my last deployment about going to Guam. I was hired for a job to be an instructor for an RTC, a readiness training center, to go to Guam. And I was like, what the hell is a Guam, man? What is that? And of
Mm-hmm.
course I call my wife, I let her know. And she's like, she breaks down in tears. She's thinking there's still cannibalism. Like we're just totally ignorant on what Guam is. Um, but yeah, man, that ended up being the best, 3 years of our lives. So from 18 to 21, even during COVID, that island really just became our second home. Our daughter was born there. I had the best job ever there. I met some of my best friends to this day were people that I met when I was on Guam. And so the wife and I had just gotten married. We were there for 3 years, and that's kind of where we grew up too, not only as a couple but as young adults. And so that place definitely still has a huge part in our heart. We love Guam. I still check on the neighbors every now and then. We love that place. And then yeah, my time came to an end there, and of course, I wanted to play the listing, the overseas listing, like most people do. And our best friends there who had kids the same age as us, they were like, let's go to Italy. And I was like, oh man, that sounds amazing. So we both put Italy on the list, and we got it. And so we spent 2 years in Italy. It was supposed to be three, but we spent 2 years there because then I started having these weird heart issues, which is how I got medically retired, came back home to San Antonio, and yeah, here I am now.
Man, I was going to say, I thought you were going to tell me that you got orders from Lackland to Randolph or something like that.
Yeah, right, right. And then Fort Sam right after that. Just playing all joint base San Antonio, man. No,
I-
thank God I got out of there.
so, it sounds like you had some medical things that came up, so
Mhm.
you looking at probably transitioning probably quicker and maybe as unexpected than what most people do. What was it? Real estate was the first thought. I'm going to go and do
Yeah,
real estate, or what did that look like?
that's a good question. When I was stationed at Lackland, there was a mentor of mine who worked. We served together, and she got out and decided to be a real estate agent. So she was my realtor when I was here in San Antonio. So when I got out, I really didn't know what to do. So I was kind of just hitting people up. I kind of felt lost. And my mentor, who was now with Real Brokerage, she's actually the head of the military division for Real Brokerage, Renee Zunker, shout out to her, man. She was like, yeah, you're doing real estate. And I was like, Me? But she sent me basically an online class. So the same month I got out, I looked up this online class for real estate, saw that it had military discount. So I think I did the class for like 500 bucks,
Mm.
and got my license, man, passed the test on the first try, and yeah, I got, to be honest, I think my first year was super lucky. I think, not lucky. I'm a man of faith, so I think everything happens for a reason, but that's how I got into real estate, man. She uh kind of led me in that direction.
Yeah, and we've had her on the show as well. She
Yep.
was a great interview, and especially the fact that just as soon as you started talking about being security forces, like I it instantly went, "Hey, that's Renee too."
Yeah.
And her story was fun because she would take in all of her license classes and doing work while on duty working night,
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
which is just wild, you know, from my career field like that. There's no way, you
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
able to have that flexibility. So I mean, was real estate, was it just Renee saying, "Hey, you're going to do real estate?" And you're like, "All right, sounds like a good idea." Or was what that conversation really go like? And obviously, you have a wife who is used to a paycheck on the first and the 15th.
Yeah.
What did that conversation look like?
So the conversation really was, hey, I have done the military for 12 years on the 1st and the 15th. My wife is a registered nurse, you know. She's a
Hmm.
hard worker. She was working her butt off during COVID. And then because of the SOFA agreement, status of forces agreement in Italy, she wasn't allowed to work those 2 years. And so when we got back home, she knew she was going to go right back to work. And then I was also getting my disability paycheck, which wasn't anywhere near what I was making, but
Something.
yeah, we were making something, you know. It was paycheck to paycheck. It was just like, hey, we're making it. And so yeah, I kind of told her, and then our best friends, the ones that we moved from Guam to Italy with, ended up calling me and saying, hey, we know that you're gonna take your real estate courses. That's cool and all, but we need you to pass the first try. I said, why? And they said, because we just got orders to Randolph and we want to buy our first house from you. And so that really made me kind of hone in and focus in on everything that, you know, I was kind of learning at the time through real estate school. Um, so yeah, I knew that they were coming. I knew I now had a timeline of when they were going to be here. So failing the test wasn't an option. And so yeah, I was just like, okay, I guess I'll, you know, study, I'll pass this test and, you know, sell it home and then we'll see where it goes from there. And man, it has been life-changing, 100%. It's been the most fun I've ever had. You know, I take my kids with me to do videos and um, you know, all sorts of showings, and I take them to the office, things like that. It's been a blessing, man, and yeah, I can't complain.
So what did that first year look like? I mean, obviously you're getting your license. You got a lead already inbound, which is better than where most people start.
Yeah.
Did they just keep falling in after that, or I mean, what did that first year really look like?
Yeah, so I think I got a wake-up call. I think I had that my first month I had or excuse me, my second month because they got here on my first month and we closed on my second month. So, had my first closing, it was 1.5%, which, you know, at the time I was like, dude, I'm making all this money from that, you know? I had no idea that later on in my real estate career, I'd be making 3%ers or 5%ers or even a 7% here and there with these new builds. So 1.5%, you'll never hear me complain. So when I got that 1.5%, man, I about, you know, had a party. So it was a blessing for sure. But the leads just kind of one thing I'm really good at, man, is just keeping in contact with people. And so whether it's my SOI or just people that I have served with in the past that maybe we don't talk to every now and then, these are people that like I told you, you know, we embrace the suck together. These are people that I stood on gates with for 12 hours, or I stood in Afghanistan watching an aircraft for 14 hours, you know, in 120-degree weather, or even individuals that I was on a tower with in Italy in 27-degree weather while it was raining, and it was just me and that individual, you know, at the top of a tower, our mustaches frozen, icicles coming out of our nose. Like these are people that I have literally gone through the craziest things with. And so I'm really good at touching base, seeing how they're doing. Um, and so, in the military, everyone has to move at some point in time.
Yeah.
There's PCS season, there's so on and so forth. And so I just became that individual, I guess, that whenever they were moving or they had a friend moving, they would reach out to me. And whether they were coming to San Antonio and I would, sell them a house or help them find an apartment, or going to Colorado, or where else did they go? California. Then I would send those referrals out to other real military agents. Um, and a lot of people sleep on referrals, but I think that's an amazing part of our business. And so, especially, being in the military, knowing that everyone's going to move all over the world or all over the United States, being able to send that individual to a trusted agent to wherever it is that they're going and still get a percentage from that, that's a blessing, man. And not enough people take advantage of that. And I think that's a big part of our business.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times we've had that same conversation with veterans, especially in the residential side, where it's, hey, this old squad leader, hey, this old, platoon sergeant or whatever, they were moving. They called me, asked me questions. Like, I don't know anything about Montana, but let me find you somebody. And sure
Yeah.
enough, you vet them, you do all that, and they're like, it.
Yep.
I made 6 grand off of just making some phone
Yeah.
calls, making
It's
sure a buddy
insane.
was taken care of. Like I think you're right. It is such a slept on uh, part of the business where, I mean, even me
Yeah.
on the commercial side, I'm not going to sell a house. I don't know the first thing about it.
Yeah.
But same thing, people call in, hey, I'm looking for, hey, you know what? Let me find you somebody. Um, and I think the advantage with this sometimes too is that um, real estate agents, I'm trying to think, say this, but I don't get in trouble. Uh, Real estate agents are great with adding a lot of fluff. We're
Hmm.
all a top producer. We're all a bestseller. We're all the number one in our market for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But us as real estate agents can kind of cut through what some of that is and how much of that is just marketing and
Yeah.
how much of that is actually legit.
100%. 100%.
So, have you found that most of your business has just been kind of your SOI, your sphere of influence with prior military, or do you start marketing outside of that?
No, I mean, um I market all over Instagram. I think Instagram and TikTok is where I stay top of mind, and I think that's what is very important. A lot of people will post to try and get leads from Instagram and TikTok, and I think that's important as well. But I think posting every day, getting my kids involved, things like that, making yourself a likable person keeps you top of mind for your SOI. So you're not necessarily always messaging out every, Monday, but they see you posting so that when anything real estate does happen, you're the person that they think of. And so, um, I'm 13 months in now, 14 months in. I have never door knocked. I've never cold called. Strictly what I do is post on Instagram, post on Facebook, talk to people, have conversations, get out there. It's uncomfortable sometimes, but as long as you're being authentic about it and you're not going up to someone like, hey, you want to buy a house? Hey, you want to buy a house? Hey, you want to? That's just not the way that I go about it. I like to have genuine conversations and learn about people, learn about their kids, figure out what their favorite football team is, as long as it's not the Cowboys. Um, I like to have conversations with people, and I think just being genuine has helped me a lot because it's sent me a lot of my SOI, a lot of military people I've worked with, but also other military individuals that I didn't work with that worked with people that I did work with, and they're referring them to me because they're coming to San Antonio. And I think that's huge. I think I remember what I was gonna say. It was about the VA loan, and a lot of people when they get into real estate, especially veterans, they don't know where to start. And so for me, I like to be a sponge, man. I like to put myself in a room with a bunch of successful people, and just shut up and listen and be a sponge and soak up whatever it is that they're putting down. And take the things that you do like, leave the things that you don't like. Same thing in the military that you do with leaders. That's kind of what I did in my first few months in real estate. And one thing I really wanted to learn about was the VA home loan. And man, I went to about 4 or 5 VA home loan seminars and just was quiet. I was trying to be a student so that I could learn the ins and outs of it so that I could then educate other airmen or soldiers or whoever, Marines, so I could educate them on the VA home loan. I was in the military for 12 years and not one person told me what it was. They always asked, "Hey, you got your VA home loan or whatever it was," but no one ever told me what it was or how to use it.
Mm.
So being that person to learn about it and then push that information out, I think was a big goal of mine, and that's where I started with my videos. And man, I think being able to help people in that aspect, and be that person that they go to be educated was super important as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I love the idea of being the dumbest person in the room. And I mean, for
Yeah,
me personally, I try to seek it out as every opportunity I get. I think as the longer you've been in the industry, the more you know. And I mean, you can get yourself in trouble where it becomes an echo chamber. We've had agents in the past that been on their own for 25, 35 years, and they decide, you know what, I'm tired of running all the brokerage. I just want to do transactions. I want to join somebody, and then they're coming back with issues where you're like, that's license law you're breaking. Oh, when did that change? I think that's been forever. You kind of run into those situations. So
yeah.
I love that. Have you noticed that mindset had to shift in the military? There's a little bit more kind of the machismo. There's a little bit more of, hey, I'm the guy, I'm the leader, I'm out there running, and sometimes you are definitely leading without having all the information while you're in the military. Have you seen kind of leadership from the military versus kind of leading and being in business, but for yourself? Have you seen a difference in that mindset?
Kinda. I think Italy, last duty station that I was telling you about, I think that in so many ways set me up for success. And this is I've put a lot of thought into this, and this is kind of where I go back to my faith aspect, and we kind of go through everything for a reason. But when I got to Italy, that job that I was doing there was so different from my first two jobs. At Lackland, I was doing law enforcement. I had deployed out of there, so I had done, whatever I did on my deployments, and then I went to Guam, where I was an instructor training, security forces members before they deployed. So when I get to Italy, my job was what's called um, a vault storage area supervisor. And so basically my job was to supervise an area, um, and I had all these airmen under me, and it was just very different from my past jobs. And I was an NCO now, and so when I went into that job, I did exactly what I did my first few months in the military. I was quiet. I rode along with the airmen. I listened to, what they were doing and what they were saying, um, and learned the job from them. My job was just to supervise them. Their job was to actually go out and do the job, whatever it was. And so it was my job just to supervise. So the best way to learn was to have them do it and watch. And so I was just a follower, man. I was a follower in order to be a good leader for that job, I had to follow first so I could learn the job. And so I think I took that aspect of, following and being a sponge for a few months. I took that aspect when I got out of the military and applied it to real estate. And man, it helps so much. Not going in thinking I know everything. Oh, I just graduated real estate school. I passed on the first try. I'm a seasoned military veteran. Like I know everything. Like that's just not who I am. If I don't know it, I'm gonna figure it out. And the best way to figure it out sometimes is to just close your mouth and listen.
No, I appreciate that because I do think that it comes out so often is that military mindset of I've got to know everything, I've got to run everything, I'm going to be the loudest, biggest voice in the room
Yeah.
doesn't always translate well into real estate.
Right.
It does I think when you start getting to marketing, I think those kind of things start to make sense as you try to market yourself. But again, I think you quickly can realize who is all show and who's actually got the go, that go along with it.
Yeah.
Kind of shifting back, you start talking about doing a lot on TikTok and Instagram. Was that somebody that coached you for doing that? Is that something you just naturally had done in the past? And I know the
Yeah.
reason why I ask is I know as we talk to new agents or new professional all the time, I don't want to get on camera. I don't want to have to take. I'm not ugly. I'm too ugly to take selfies. Like it's we get that mindset. So I was curious. Like, was that something you already did, or was that something you had to overcome?
Yeah, so when growing up, my senior year of high school, or sometime in high school. Maybe it wasn't senior year, but I had friends that had always done YouTube.
Hmm.
One of my best friends is still in California. He's been there since 2011 or 2012, where he moved there, and all he does is social media, YouTube. He gets paid for it. He's been in movies before, and so I grew up with the young YouTube crowd, or the people that kind of started it. And so I also did YouTube videos, and so that's where I learned how to edit. That's where I learned how to be in front of camera. That's just kind of where I learned the basics, and kind of where I got comfortable with it. But yes, I have heard that so much. Like, and with people that some people they even look outgoing, like they could get in front of camera and be perfect. But like you said, as soon as you turn that camera on, man, you just kind of freeze up. You don't know what to say. You're just kind of there. It feels awkward, just you and a camera. And it's even worse if there's other people around. But yeah, no, I've always been pretty decent at it. I think I can still get better. But yeah, you just turn the camera on and start talking about the house behind you. And for me, it's pretty easy, luckily.
So, do you time block this out? Like, hey, every Monday morning or whatever the case is, I'm going to be doing social media, or how do you work that into your?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I got out of the military tells you where to be and when to be there.
Mhm.
So in the military, you're kind of time blocking without even time blocking. Um, when I got out of the military, I found that I was lacking that. I didn't know when to check my emails or when to go out and do home tours or when to go film or when to spend time with my kids. I was trying to stay busy, but I was nowhere near productive. And I think that is so important, man. Figuring out how to be productive and not so busy. Making your time work for you. And I think time blocking is something that really changed the game for me. And so yes, now I do time block. And if it doesn't fall within that block, hey, that's a tomorrow problem. I can worry about that in tomorrow's time block. But time blocking is so important. So, for example, I had our meeting time block today. Um, as soon as this meeting's over, I'm putting my shoes on and I'm heading over to a client that just drove here from out of state so he can see his house for the first time, a military client. After that, I'm going, and everything's time blocked. So, I think to any military person that's watching right now, uh, that's thinking about jumping into real estate, start time blocking sooner rather than later because man, it's definitely changed my business a lot, and I'm now being more productive than busy.
I like how you make that connection between productive and busy, and I think that's something is all real estate agents, regardless of time blocking or not, struggle with.
Yeah,
There's so many things to do to keep yourself busy, but are you able to actually be productive? Other
yeah.
than time blocking, I mean, have you found anything else that has kind of helped in that
Um,
being productive rather than busy?
I would say looking at what I feel like real estate is a career where you can take things that other people are doing and you can just, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just recreate what other people are doing, and add your own flavor to it. And so I think I've done what a lot of successful people are doing, and I've added those things into my career, or excuse me, into my career, and it's been very helpful, whether it's time blocking or, going out and meeting these, instead of going on Facebook and saying, hey, I need a 3 bedroom, 2 bath on the north side of town. Instead of doing that, I'll just drive to the north side of town. I'll meet these representatives. I'll learn about the houses. So now next time I need a 3 bedroom, 2 bath on the north side of town, I not only know the houses, I know the reps that I can call and the builders in those areas, as opposed to, getting on Facebook and just typing it out, hoping that all these reps message you back. So I like to just I get out, learn, um, yeah, kind of do things on my own as opposed to, you know, just people giving it to me, if that makes sense. I don't even know if that makes sense, but yeah,
No, I can see it. The idea of getting out there and proactively finding things, actively going out there instead of relying. I can see where that adds a lot of value, and I'm in a lot of these same Facebook groups as well, where um, you know Google's free, and half the questions that are asked there could be asked of Google or by your
yeah,
broker, or should be answered by your broker, which to me, it always gets more scary. On the commercial side, we see it all the time. Hey, I need a commercial lender. And I'm like, you've never done a commercial transaction. Like, whoever's mentoring you should be connecting you there. I mean,
Right.
there's an every now and then, hey, I need somebody who's doing an SBA, such and such. That's a strange request that you may not run across. Fair enough. But I would agree that going out and doing those things can definitely make a difference. When it comes to support, how did you find? I think, I'll pick on Real just a little bit. Real
Mhm.
being a completely virtual brokerage and all that. Have you found that being a hindrance or being a positive to you?
So when I got into real estate, I didn't give any other brokerage a chance. I just joined Real right off rip because of yeah, Renee kind of, she was the head of the military division, and I was like, man, I want to be part of the military division,
Yeah.
And so Real is all I know. So to answer that question truthfully, I feel like with other brokerages, maybe the beginning of my career would have been a little bit smoother. Maybe I would have had a little more hands-on. Maybe I would have had a mentor that I could see, every day of the week, Monday through Friday. I don't know. So if I were to speak on that, I'd be lying to you. But I can tell you what Real has done for me is this brokerage is so huge on collaboration over competition. So whenever anyone does anything and that thing works, whatever it is, we are now pushing that out to all the other agents. Um, for example, uh, Renee does, pop buys, for her VIP clients. So I'm like, okay, cool. That sounds amazing. I want to do that for my VIP clients. Who are my VIP clients? Renee, how did you figure out who your VIP clients were? Well, my VIP clients were the ones that left 5-star Google reviews. And so I was like, oh, dang, I have clients that have left 5-star. I guess those are my VIP clients. So little things like that just to, continuously stack to make your business a little better and better, each day. Um, whether it's, with filming or, little things that you can add to your business to make it more structured, whatever it is, when Real does something that works, they share it with all the other agents in Real. And so, that aspect alone has been amazing. Um, we do have some offices here in San Antonio, which has been super helpful. Um, so I'm like today, I'm going to after I meet up with my client to show him his house for the first time. I'm having coffee with some agents from the military division, one of which lives in like Laredo, and so she's driving here to San Antonio. We're gonna have coffee, hang out, just kind of, just whatever, just catch up, I guess. But yeah, we kind of lean on each other because we know that it's a cloud-based brokerage. So everyone that's here in San Antonio, we're just super tight. We have events, we have meetups, we have, military division specific meetups that we have the first Monday of every month. So it's I don't know, it's all I really know. So yeah.
How how do you think the military division? We got to hear Renee's side of it. She's the head of it. Of course,
Mhm.
she's going to cheerlead, rah rah rah.
Yeah.
But you're actually in it. How have you, I guess, benefited from being a part of the military division?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one thing is marketing. And so a lot of brokerages out there don't have the military division or a military division, or they don't push it, right? And so with Real having the military division and always highlighting it, I think marketing wise, I've gotten a lot of my clients that are like, "Oh yeah, you're in the military. Like I assume you can tell me about my VA home loan." And because I did my due diligence and I learned the ins and outs of it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course." But they noticed me from the marketing of Real Military Division. But aside from marketing, we have a whole separate system called WorkVivo. Essentially, it's like Facebook, but it's for real agents. Um, and there's a real military division section, right? And so, say I have, I'll give you real examples that I've had. I've had people PCS to California, Colorado, San Angelo, all over the United States, and I reach out to real military division agents that are here in these locations. And let's say Colorado, for example. There's an agent there that I met. His name's Kyle. Shout out to Kyle, man. This one of the best agents I've ever met. Um, and I had clients that were moving to Colorado, and I was like, hey, you know, let me connect you with these guys. And I've already met Kyle. I know Kyle from a real estate conference that we went to, which is how met him and found out he was in the military division. But being able to send my clients, people that I know, people that I've served with, to not just a random individual, but another person I know, an agent that I know is squared away. I know he's prior military. I know that he's gonna take care of these people just as good as I would take care of them. That part, that aspect right there is probably one of the biggest things that the military division can offer. And so, whenever we do these meetups or have conferences or whatever, the military division always gets together, so that we can meet each other, find out what state we're in, so that when we have referrals going to those states, we can send them to those individuals.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think the other thing that you've alluded to, but you hadn't quite said as well, is really a place of community and belonging.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think you've kind of hinted around on a lot of that. And I know, at least for me, when I left the military, I went boutique brokerage, corporate real estate. I mean, I went that route. I was I was by myself. I didn't have a safety net. I didn't have a group of military people to reach back to. So as
yeah,
I'm dealing with the transition, as I'm dealing with now not being deployed, I think for my unit's next deployment, they had a pretty bad time. So I felt a lot of guilt the fact that I got out they're, in rough positions. Guys I was training were in terrible positions, kind of thing. I had a lot of guilt that came along with that. Really didn't have
yeah,
anybody to reach out to, nobody to talk to, and those things where as I've progressed and I've seen other brokerages and seen those kind of things where I was with another brokerage at the time in their military division and that would have been so much more beneficial to have those people that even on not just business but on life they understand
yeah,
why they understand where you're going, they understand that transition, that first couple of years out of the military, how it's weird, how it's strange, how you don't know
yep,
how to cut your hair. I mean, it's all that kind of strange things you just don't think of.
yeah, yeah.
And
Man,
you're alluding to a lot of it, and
yeah.
I'm assuming that's exactly what I wish I had is what you're able to have there with real military.
Yeah, yeah, those Monday morning meetings that I was talking to you about that we have on the first Monday of every month, we meet at a local coffee shop in New Braunfels, Texas,
Mhm.
and it's a group of maybe 12, 14 military agents and veterans, and just sitting there having a cup of coffee, man, talking to listening to these Air Force jokes and listening to the Marines eat crowns and whatever it is that we're talking about. It's just so funny, man, and it takes us back to those moments when, for me personally, it takes me back to those moments when I was a young airman standing at a gate, or standing from tip to tip on an airplane, or whatever it was, with whoever it was that you were standing with, and just talking about whatever y'all were talking about, but y'all were doing it together. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. It's just that sense of, oh, what's the word? Belonging, almost. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I couldn't imagine my career without it, without the military division, and without that aspect.
So now that you said you're about 14, 15 months in,
Yep.
you've had a good solid year. Is there anything that you were just completely floored by when you got in? You're like, oh, that's my job, or oh, I have to do that?
Yeah. I think the amount of paperwork was one thing. Paying attention to detail, as opposed to, my job in Guam, I'd be out in the jungle with 12 airmen, and we'd be, you're just trying to figure out how to survive, and, how to set up ambushes. And, I'd never sat behind a desk. And so getting some computers and a desk, and figuring out how to sit down for a little bit was one thing. And then just the if I'm being 100% honest, the money that you can make, that I don't think real estate is hard at all. And that might be disrespectful to some people. Some people might take that the wrong way, but when you've done the things that military people have done, working those long shifts, and not only military people, nurses and first responders and cops, working those long hours, being alone in a cop car for, 12 hours or trying to stay awake. If you fall asleep in the military with your gun, you're not getting in trouble. You're going to jail. You know, you're losing stripes. You're getting kicked out. Something bad is happening. So those were hard jobs. Sitting behind a desk and filling out some paperwork, paying attention to detail and making sure it's all squared away before you send it out. It's not very hard. Going and showing homes isn't hard. I think the hardest part about real estate is probably finding your leads, staying consistent, and not being lazy. I think that's the hardest part about real estate. So I think the military set me up for success in a lot of those aspects. But no, I think getting my first check, even though it was only 1.5%, I almost felt like a sense of like, did I really just get paid all that for this? It was almost like I didn't belong, or like I really just did the military for 12 years and worked my tail off, and I was getting paid. You know, we don't get paid that well in the military.
Right.
We're it's not. I mean, we're not broke either, but I feel like the military members should be getting paid way more than what we get paid. So when I started in real estate and was getting paid these nice paychecks, I was just like, what? Like I showed I showed 4 houses. I maybe filled up my gas tank once, and I filled out 7 forms, and I'm getting paid this for that. That is when I was just like, whoa, this is what I'm doing now. Like this is my job, and I'm blessed to have this job. And if this is what I can do in my first few months, okay, let me put my seatbelt on. Let me really learn this thing, the ins and outs, so I can really buckle up and take this thing to the next level. And I think that's when I realized it was when I got my first paycheck. Even though it was only 1.5%, getting that 1.5% for the amount of work that I did to get it, I was just like, wow, like, yeah, I like this thing.
No, and I think what you're highlighting on is both the positive and the negative of the industry, right?
Yeah,
A lot of people see, you don't do a whole lot of work and you make a whole lot of money. And I mean, I'll argue that there's a lot of work that goes in the back end. There's a lot of things that are not
yeah,
productive. Like there's a lot of things that happen, but you're right in the same sense. I mean, there's some years where, you know, we've come close to clearing $1 million and GCI just having really good years, and other
yeah,
years it's not. But I mean, you can make serious money, life changing money in
yeah,
industry by putting in the work, hustling, and doing those things, and kind of being in the right place at the right time for some of it as well. And I mean, I grew up as a poor kid in the Panhandle of Florida. Would have never thought, you know, we could be earning what we make, you know, what we can make now.
yeah, yeah. And just to kind of go back to, I want to make the point that like the money is just the plus, you know?
Mhm.
The I get my disability. My wife is a nurse. She's making decent amount of money too. So we're in no way, shape, or form broke or anywhere near that. The money that we make from real estate is just a plus. So those 1.5%, that's not to look down on. That's saying that I felt like that was a lot of money, and on top of what we were already getting. But the real I guess where I get my passion from is the individuals that I help, whether it's family members, like my brothers just bought their first house. That was one of the greatest feelings ever. You know, my older brother is about to buy his first house. These are all civilians, you know. Seeing them make these moves is life changing for me. My wife's cousin bought his first house using his VA home loan. And then, you know, I've already helped over 20 other veterans with their purchases of their either first homes or investment properties. That is where my happiness comes from. That's where the passion comes from. Um, that's where I can look back and just appreciate the fact that, man, I learned about the VA home loan. I learned about these things so that I could, these are the people that I wanted to educate. And now they're reaching out to me to buy their homes. And I think that's the biggest blessing, man, is being able to be that person that these people reach out to be educated from, but to also get their first property. And yeah, that there's no greater feeling than getting, you know, the keys, giving it to them. You know, I like to go big, man. So I'll get them their closing gift, whatever that may be. You know, I pop the confetti. This is a celebration, man. And one quote that I've always lived by is when your homies elevate, celebrate. And these are my people, you know. And so with them making the biggest financial decision of their lives and buying a house and trusting me to guide them through that, man, we're gonna have a party, at that closing day.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. So looking back the 15 or so months or even back into in your time in the military, is there anything that you would have done, and which is usually kind of what we start wrapping up with, is there anything you would have done differently, kind of looking at what you know now versus maybe the last 24 months or so as you're getting
Mm.
out of the military, making that transition, and then coming into real estate?
Is there anything I would have done differently? I probably would have, I think time blocking was one thing that I probably would have added earlier on to my career. I think time blocking is an important one. I think not caring what people are going to think of you is a huge one, and I say that because of the whole video thing, being nervous to get on video. I think the faster you get on video, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or whatever you get on video, whatever format you post it on, the faster you get in front, the more comfortable the faster you'll get, being comfortable in front of the camera. The faster you can post and the faster other people will see, hey, James is now in real estate. Look at him posting videos with him and his daughter touring this house. And once you start posting like that, you're on top of people's minds, um, but also you're having fun with it. And I think that's super important too, to be able to get to have a job where I can take my kids with me and or not take them with me, just depends on the day. My wife works nights, so just to be able to do whatever it is that I need to do with my kids or without them, but have the confidence because I've practiced it, I think is super important. So not caring what people think, time blocking, and the third one would probably be just stay consistent. There's days where you're gonna feel like you don't want to do anything. Um, just do one task. Whatever that task is, just do one task. Um, be productive, don't be busy. Do something that is productive to you or your business that day, so that it's not a complete, stalemate.
James, I love it. Thank you, one, for your service, and for two, for being here and willing to share your story and the fact that you're relatively new and this is all fresh. I think is such a great perspective. A lot of times we get the old farts that are in here that have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, but this is all fresh and new in your transition. So, I
100%.
mean, thank you so much for being willing to share that, and we wish you most success as you continue on. It sounds like you're gonna keep killing it though.
Thank you so much, brother. Thanks for having me, and yeah, man, I appreciated the conversation.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, brother.